5 reasons why you should be doing rent to rent in your property investing. Hello, my name's Mark Fitzgerald, and it's great to have you joining me here for this episode. So I'm going to cover with you 5 reasons why I believe rent to rent should be a part of your property investing strategy. Why? Because it's a great little strategy to be using to bring you in extra cash flow. At the end of the day, cash flow is king, and by having more revenue, more money coming to you, it can help you to be able to buy more properties, to potentially do more refurbishments if that's what you're doing in your own portfolio, or of course to grow a successful rent-to-rent business. Now, whether that's using the HMO strategy or whether that's using the serviced accommodation strategy, the choice is up to you. You can even do both. So you can go out there with all the tools that you need to look for the right properties at the right price with the right people to be able to work with. And if you need any help with that, then please visit thepropertyunleashed.com, where we have an ebook about HMO rent to rent. We also have the ultimate serviced accommodation business builder ebook that you can download, that you can read through, that will help you on your property investing. We have a deal analyzing spreadsheet so you can stack those numbers, make sure that you're doing good deals. We want to be doing good deals. And of course, we have a free rent-to-rent masterclass that you can work your way through and that you can learn how to set yourself up, as we like to say, for success. So do check out thepropertyunleashed.com. But let's now get into it. So the 5 real reasons why I think you should be incorporating rent-to-rent in your property investing strategies are: number 1, it's a low-cost startup. You'll have heard me say this all the time if you've watched any of my other videos or you've listened to the podcast. It is relatively low cost. It's no money down. You'll hear this all the time, no money down, no money down. It's not a no money down strategy or anything. And to be quite honest with you, whilst property investing can be done on a budget, I would say that people out there saying no money down deals is getting a bit out of hand. There's always money involved. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be your money. So you could put a flip on that and say, well, I've done an investment. I had an investor that brought in X amount of money. We've got hold of the property and we've done this. None of my own money, no money down. All right, I'll give you that. But at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that you know what you're doing, particularly if you're using other people's money as well. Of course, you don't want to lose your own, but it is a relative low-cost setup. You see, I've never paid for a deposit and I've never paid for a refurbishment on any of the properties that I've done rent-to-rent deals on. And I've built up a successful rent-to-rent portfolio over the last 4 years that's completely replaced my income. It helped me to stay out of the day job. I took voluntary redundancy. But if you're looking at replacing the boss, as they say, getting out of the 9 to 5, then rent-to-rent is a great strategy for that. But likewise, maybe you've already done it, but you're starting to find cash flow is difficult. Maybe you're doing some developments, all your money's going into that and being recycled out of that and into the next deal, into the next project. You really want to go low cost in what you're doing. Massive gains though. We want massive gains for the returns. We want good cash flow coming through. So what I say with low cost is it will cost you a few £100s to set the properties up, to start them out. Now, if you go for existing HMOs, that's houses of multiple occupation that already have licenses, that are already functioning as HMOs, then the cost is even less, okay? Because all of the work's been done for you. Those are the types of properties that I target, because I don't want to be buying furniture packs on HMOs. I don't want to be, putting in fire alarms and all the safety procedures that you need. I'd rather walk into a property that has already had all of those things done. And if you do that, and that's what I show people how to do on the rent-to-rent business builder, you bring their costs down at the beginning so that you'll be able to get hold of these properties and you'll be able to grow your rent-to-rent business a lot quicker. So I do budget and spend a couple of £100 in each property, and that's normally for dressing that we can store at the property to advertise our rooms. Now, if you're doing serviced accommodation, and of course we go through all of this of how to make it as cost effective in the ultimate serviced accommodation business builder training program, and we even share with you our power teams and things, you probably will have to buy some furniture. A lot of the time we're getting single let, buy to let properties, maybe they're unfurnished. We have to put some of the furniture in there, and we have to, of course, make them look nice as well. Now that does depend on the clientele that you're looking at having. I love working with contractors over holiday makers, over that sort of market. I would rather have contractors in my properties that are there Monday to Friday predominantly than I would families or even potentially people that are going to go in there and try and have parties and wreck the place and things. So if you have contractors, you want it to be comfortable. You do still want it to be nice, but it doesn't necessarily have to be at a massive cost to you. And of course, work with the budget that you have. If you don't really have much of a budget, get yourself educated, because you will save a fortune. If you try and piece it together, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube and reading books, you're going to make costly mistakes. You're going to make more mistakes than probably you would have spent on some decent, solid training. And we have that for you if you need it, but do your due diligence. If you go to anybody for the training, make sure it's right for you. But anyway, a low cost is what it's all about for us. We don't want to be spending a lot of money on properties that we do not own. And when you do rent to rent, you don't own the property. So if the landlords aren't willing to spend any money on the properties to bring them up to a good level, I would think twice about doing it yourself, unless that deal really cash flows well. But we will have to put a few pounds into the deal. So just be aware that it's not no money down. It's very minimal money down, okay? But know what you're doing. So at number 2, it's all about having high returns, okay? That's why I give away on my website, thepropertyunleashed.com, a free deal analyzing spreadsheet. Why? Because too many people out there are doing bad deals. Whether they haven't got a spreadsheet to be able to stack the numbers, whether somebody or people out there are just letting people do these deals through their training or whatever, that's not what we do with the Rent to Rent Business Builder training program. If you have a deal on that and you're one of my students, you send me the deal, I will give you my full advice on whether I think the numbers stack, whether you need to tweak something, or whether it's all systems go. It's a hell yes, I would do that deal myself. You need to make sure that you're going to get high returns from this. Now, some people say, well, if I'm going to make so much from these properties, why doesn't the landlord just do it themselves? Listen, they don't want the hassle. They're not setting themselves up in the same way that we set ourselves up. Okay, so we set ourselves up with systems. We set ourselves up in such a manner that it's a business. And I always say you want to be a property business if you're getting involved, particularly in a strategy like rent to rent. So what we also need to be looking at is the numbers. How much do you want to earn? If you're doing HMOs, you want to be earning a minimum of £100 per room. So if you have a 5-bed property, you want to be making £500 a month after all other costs, okay? But equally, you want to know what to say to the landlords, to the agents, to be able to make them come to the party and understand that by you earning that or making that sort of profit, you're going to look after their asset over the next 5 years. You're going to maintain that asset so that they're making even more money, because A, they're going to make the guaranteed rent, and B, their asset isn't going to start depreciating because it's being used, wear and tear, it's not being maintained, it's not being managed properly. We will manage it to the highest standard. We will maintain the properties to the standard that we get them. If not, we'll make them a bit better. And of course, in 5 years' time, what do property prices tend to do over the long term is they tend to go up, don't they? So if their property's looking really, really good, they're safe in the knowledge that not only have they made that guaranteed rent each and every month, but equally to that, their asset is going up as well. For an investor, for a landlord, that is a win, win for them. So that is something that you want to take into mind when you're negotiating your deals. And again, that's another thing that I go through with my students, and I show them how to do things like that. I show them how to negotiate good deals that are a win-win for all parties, because that's always what we want to be doing, is doing the best deals, but making sure that we do the best deals and everybody gets a piece of the pie, so to speak. So at number 3, what I love about rent to rent, and why I think you can incorporate this into your property investing journey, is the flexibility that it offers you. This isn't a 9-to-5 job. You know, some people say to me, I don't really want to get into rent to rent. I don't want to be a property manager. Listen, if you own properties, you're probably going to be a property manager. If you have a letting agent or a serviced accommodation management team managing your properties, at some point you're still going to have to manage those companies and those teams to get the results that you want, because nobody will look after your properties, unfortunately, as good as you will, because it's your business. Nobody will run your business as well as you. Now, some people may be able to run it well, but it'll never be as good as what you actually want. And to maximize your profits, you're better off having an eye on the prize, so to speak, an eye on the properties. Now, the flexibility of it is that, yes, sometimes we may have somebody call us in an evening with a problem. Okay, that's fine, but you can outsource that. Okay, you can find a maintenance company that covers the area that are happy to take out of hours calls. I have this so that I can sleep well at night. If there's a problem in one of my properties, they call my maintenance company then deal with it. I sleep well. I don't even find out about it until the next day. But we know it's all in hand. Our tenants are looked after. And that's the same with our guests as well that stay in our serviced accommodation units. So you can systemize the business. Again, there's a reason why I've called the rent-to-rent business builder and the ultimate serviced accommodation business builder is to systemize businesses. Stop looking at this as a hobby or as an old landlord. Stop listening to people out there as well that are telling you that you have to do everything. You have to run around and wear all the caps. You can systemize this business relatively quickly. Yes, you are going to have to put work into it. Yes, it's not all going to land in your lap and be as easy as a lot of people make out. You are going to have to put hard work, effort, blood, sweat and tears, as I always say. But once you've set this up, once you've got some deals, once you've put a team in place, you can then take a step backwards. Now, I would say never take a step backwards so far that you're not still overseeing what people are doing and keeping an eye on things, but you don't have to micromanage these things. You put the systems in place and then people can perform for you. In the very beginning, it may be you doing it all. But I'd say once you get to a handful of properties, it's very, very easy to start systemizing and start paying people to do that for you. And I hear you all say, crikey, paying people? I haven't even got a deal yet. I was the same. I got to 6 properties, and before I started to look up and think, oh, do you know what? I actually need some help with all of this. I left it too late, which is why I now help and show people how to systemize their business as early as possible, to have virtual assistants to be able to deal with the tenants, to be able to deal with complaints for you. And it's not very often now that I actually speak to a tenant. In fact, I can't remember the last time I actually had a conversation with a tenant, because we have people in our teams now that deal with all of this. That's not to say I wouldn't. There's nothing wrong with doing that sort of thing. And I did everything. Let me just caveat that. I was the guy that spoke to everybody. I was the guy that dealt with everything when I started. But it was my business. I built it from the ground up. And now we've managed to systemize it in such a manner that I don't have to go out there and speak to everybody. But as I say, I would if I had to as well. It's not something I'd say, oh no, I'm never speaking to a tenant again. I've got no problems with anything like that. But you can build the systems in there, okay? And that is very, very important for you. So, at number 4, another reason is reduced risk. Now, you're probably sat there or stood there or listening to it on a train tube or however you watch or listen to these episodes and thinking to yourself, what do you mean reduced risk? I'm offering a guaranteed rent. Whether I'm doing HMOs, whether I'm doing serviced accommodation, I'm guaranteeing a rent here. I could be out of pocket if I don't manage to fill these properties. Yes, but let's just take a step back here. If you were going to buy a property, now let's just say for argument's sake, Forget the numbers. The numbers are the numbers wherever you are across the country. I'm going to keep them stupid simple here. And let's say we're looking at buying a property for £300,000. Let's say it's a 6-bed HMO. £300,000. You would have to put down a large chunk of cash, a deposit for that property. Okay? That's a big risk. You've then got to pay all the solicitor's fees, all of the search fees. You've then got to buy the property. You'll then have a mortgage on the property. That is a risk as well. Now, when I do a rent-to-rent deal, I look at the guaranteed rent that I pay the landlord as basically being a mortgage, okay? Because if I bought the property, I'd have to pay the mortgage company a guaranteed rent, okay? It might not be a guaranteed rent. We'd just call it a mortgage. But I would have to pay them that mortgage, and that's a guarantee, or I lose the property. Exactly the same with rent-to-rent. You're guaranteeing a rent, which i.e., in most cases, you could look at in your business and say, that is like paying a mortgage. If I don't pay it, I lose the property. Okay? So the risk isn't that great, because you can take properties on and you can try what you want to try in that area. So let's just say you found a nice property. It looks like a good area with workers, with great rental demand. Then you start trying to fill the property and you manage to fill it. But the rental demand's not as good as you want, or the tenant type isn't quite what you want. Or you're doing serviced accommodation and you're not quite getting the market, or the research has said that it's really good, but you're not quite getting the results that you want. If you set yourself up as a business in a proper manner, you can always issue what we call a break clause in the contract. Never have a contract without a break clause. This is business to business, okay? We don't want to break a contract by not paying, because that's going to damage our reputation, and we should never get into a deal with the intention of using the break clause. That's very important as well. But sometimes we do. I've issued break clauses on contracts, on deals that I've had, because they haven't quite worked the way that I hoped for. I had a few properties that were relatively small, 5 beds. When I took them on, the deals and the numbers stacked. Then the utility prices went up, and even though we managed to, or we looked at uplifting the rooms, we still couldn't quite get the numbers to stack. So we issued the break clause and we gave the properties back in the same way, or the same manner that we received them, if not a bit better. Actually, we always look to improve. Okay? Shook hands, no harm done. And I've also subsequently took on more properties to replace those properties. Your first deals, are never going to be your best deals. Let's get that right. Whether you've got help and support or whatever, you get better with time. It's the same as anything, but it's a reduced risk. If you've bought the property and all of a sudden you realize the same thing, I'm not quite getting the clientele I wanted, it's not working out for me, you've then got to put that property on the market. You've then got to be negotiated and haggled on that you may potentially lose money, because you don't know whether the market's going up, whether it's a stagnant market, or whether the market's dropping. At the moment, the market is going up and down like a yo-yo. So one minute we're booming, the next minute we're not. It's all a bit quiet on the Western Front at the moment. So you just don't know where you're going to be. So you could lose money there. That's a risk. You've of course got to keep paying the mortgage until it's sold. It could take 6 months. Hey, it could take 12 months to sell the property. That is 12 months. You're stuck paying this mortgage. You're stuck with this property. You're stuck with all this money tied up, not being able to move. So I hope you can understand that by using the rent-to-rent strategy, you can really reduce your risk when it comes to particularly starting out, practicing. I say practicing. It's probably not the best word, but you can practice with other people's properties, doing a good job, and then you know what works in your area. I always say it. I now know with the properties that I have what works in my area. If a property comes up for sale now, I'll buy it. Why? Because I can cookie cutter exactly what I'm already doing, what I've already practiced, if you like, and then use that on the properties. So it is a reduced risk, because you're not having the massive outlays, and equally to that, you're not having to sit around and wait for solicitors to A, help you buy the thing, or B, help you sell the thing, and estate agent fees and all of those things that come with it. So it is a great strategy for practicing and seeing and testing your markets. Okay? And at number 5, this is a very, very good foreign landlords, and for investors. Now, what do I mean by that? Because we give them peace of mind. So how can that help your property investing? Well, the thing is, if you work, and a lot of my landlords that I work with are savvy investors. They're looking at investing in deals and things. But so am I. My team comes in, looks after it. I build up the know, like, and trust with the landlords. We do a superb job for them. They keep buying properties. Who are they going to give them to? All of a sudden, I've got to feed a shop with a landlord that I get on with or an investor that I get on with. I've already got to feed a shop now, giving me the next deal. And they even come to me and say, Mark, I only want your company to look after my properties because you do such a good job. So I'm looking at buying in this area. Would you manage it? No, I wouldn't. We don't cover that area. We only cover this area. Okay, so if I find a house in this area, this criteria, and I go through how I'm going to spec it up and everything, would your team manage it? Would your company manage it? Yes, of course we will. You work with people. All of a sudden, they're bringing you deals. It doesn't cost you anything for these deals. We know the structure of the deals. Do you know what I mean? And likewise to that, if you go and find something that you want to purchase, and you know these investor landlords are always looking to make a bit of money, who's to say, A, you couldn't do a JV with them, B, they couldn't just be an investor for one of your deals, and C, you can make it a win-win for everybody. I tell you what, I've found the perfect property. You bring the money because I know that you're investing all the time. We'll do the work together and then my company will manage it, and let's split the profits 50-50. Make it a win-win for everybody. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, as they like to say. So that is my 5 reasons why I think rent to rent works so well. And as a property investor, it really is a strategy that you want to be having in the back of your mind. If it's not already at the front of your mind, to start bringing in cash flow, to start sacking that boss, and to start moving yourself forward. As I say, check out thepropertyunleashed.com for free tools and resources. If you're interested or you need help or support on your property journey or rent-to-rent journey, we have the Rent-to-Rent Business Builder for HMOs. We have the Ultimate Serviced Accommodation Business Builder for serviced accommodation. I also offer one-to-one mentorship over the course of 12 months. I like to do that over the year. Anything like that that you're interested in, do feel free to reach out to us at the hello@thepropertyunleashed.com is our email address, or reach out to me on social media. Just ask me a question. I'll never message you first, but if you message me, I will get back to you. Okay? And we can have a discussion. We maybe jump on a Zoom call and see if this is right for you. Either myself or a member of the team will be more than happy to help you moving forward. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've certainly enjoyed sharing it with you. As always, have that vision of what it is you want to achieve. Break it down into goals. Break those goals down into bite-sized chunks that you can take action on each and every day and push yourself forward. You take care, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.